Welcome back. Time for another edition of the other Tom Green Show. Thanks for joining us. And as always, I like to remind you to do the things I don't understand, like and subscribe and share and, help the show grow. Please, we appreciate it. One of the great things about sports I've always felt is it puts you in places in your mind, days you remember. And one of those days I remember was September 26th of 1999. So it was basically 26 years ago this week. I was in Tampa. The Broncos, two-time Super Bowl champions, were playing the Buccaneers on a very hot day. But this was going to be one of those very interesting games because the Broncos came in 0-2, and this was the year after John Elway retired. So Brian Griese and the Broncos were now struggling, trying to deal with losing their all-time quarterback, their Hall of Famer. Well, they didn't play a great game. We watched the Broncos only put up 9 first downs this weekend against the Chargers. That day, they only put up 8 first downs. They lose the game 13-10. They're now 0-3. The next week, that didn't get much better. The Jets came into town, and that was the game that Terrell Davis suffered the injury that would more or less end his career. But back in Tampa, that Sunday, I remember being at that game, and all the time in the press box before the game kicked off, I was watching the Ryder Cup. It was the 1999 Ryder Cup in Brookline, one of the most famous Ryder Cups in history. So at 1 o'clock, when the game kicks off, you turn your attention to the football game, and you watch the football game for 3 hours. You go down to the locker room, you do your live shots and stuff, and then at some point, someone tells you what happened in Brookline. It was one of the most amazing days in golf history. And one of the people who helped author that story is our guest today on the other Tom Green Show. David Duval joins me. So as I was talking about 1999, let's take a trip back and remember some of what happened on that Sunday in Brookline, Massachusetts.
In the meantime, this putt was for yet another American point. And look at David Duval, the man who earlier in the year had referred to the Ryder Cup as an exhibition, is now exhibiting all of the qualities of a man who has changed his mind.
That was some Sunday. David Duval
Yes,
joins me now. That's got to be, you've had some great moments, many great moments in the sport of golf, but that, because it was a team event, had to feel really special.
Very much so. I don't know how you rank things, but it's certainly probably in that top 4, 5, or 6 of my career.
Talk about the difference in playing Ryder Cup, because the American team and the Europeans are getting ready to go at it again.
Mm-hmm.
It is different, isn't it? There is a
Entirely.
difference to it than playing individual golf as you play most of the time.
Entirely different setup, entirely different week, the lead up to it, all those things. I don't know how long the show is, but you can keep going on and on about it. But it's like, I liken it to, you work, I think probably in any professional realm. Sports is, most certainly that, you work your heart out for years and years and years to be nervous, and so like if I always said on the TV when I was doing the TV that, if you're not nervous on Sunday at a tournament, you're either not playing or you're playing too early because that's what you want. But even like you get to the Masters, the Open, the U.S. Open, if you have a chance to win on that Sunday, a little bit nervous starting out, you settle into your round. If you've been playing well and you have a chance to kind of close it out, the nerves kind of come back, and that's kind of what you want. But you do settle in, and they kind of go away. At the Ryder Cup, you get out there on the first tee on Tuesday to play a practice round, and you're nervous, and it doesn't stop until the event's over. It's just different, I think, because you have your captains. The vice captains have expanded over the years. You have your 11 teammates, you have the caddies, you have the spouses, it's just a remarkable event.
There's always an edge between the teams. You go back, it always seemed like Seve was a guy who could create that edge. And you would feel it in your individual matches and four balls, foursomes, things like that. What I remember more than anything about that was Saturday night was that Ben Crenshaw doing that, I got a feeling about this. Did you buy it when he said it?
Absolutely. And it wasn't so much that what Ben was saying in the presser at the end of the day leading into Sunday. It was more kind of a discussion, at least from the way I saw it, more a discussion amongst us as a team, that if you kind of had paid attention to the matches on Friday and on Saturday, their chips went in the hole, their 35-footers went in, ours didn't. Ours lipped out. Like, even though we were in that big deficit of 10-6, the matches themselves had been contested a lot more closely than the score reflected.
So the next Sunday morning, you go out there. You're one of the first half of the Americans to take on the Europeans, and you guys win the first 6 matches. The whole thing spins immediately. Your match with Jesper Parnevik. You said there was a little tension in your match too at times. Yeah, you got on top of him early.
Quickly, yeah. And you're nervous going out. I think I was 4 up after 7 holes, and on the 8th hole, he had roughly 5 feet, 6 feet for par. I had about 4 feet. Similar putts, and he asked, good, because, that happens in these matches, right? And I looked at him and I said, you know what? I'm pretty certain I'm going to make mine, but I'd sure like to see you make yours. And he missed, and I made. I went 5 up after 8. I think he won the 11th hole to get it back to 4, and then I picked up a couple more. But, when Mark James put out his lineup for that Sunday matches, and it, obviously we're going to go top heavy. That's how you have to in such a deficit. And we saw what he did, and it's like, wow, this seems like a huge tactical error, because you would think he would do the exact same thing. Like, they're so close to winning the Ryder Cup.
Right.
Get all your best players out. Don't give us a chance, And that didn't happen, and the team did exactly what it needed to do.
And the Justin Leonard putt ended it.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the great triumphs. And, I just think about how that felt, because you win your match. The emotion you showed that we saw was very atypical for you in particular. You were a guy who kept it all inside. But maybe it was part of what you just talked about, that you get nervous Tuesday morning. It stays with you until it's over. And at that moment, you just let it out.
Well, I think it's that. It's also the coverage of the event, the constant harping by the press that the American team isn't a team; it's individuals. That kind of goes down to a little bit of my famous TV argument fight with Brandel in 2015 on the Golf Channel. That our producer, he just kept letting it going. He's like,
they like this.
Oh yeah, but it's like, you don't know what's going on behind the closed doors unless you've been there.
Yeah.
And you have no idea what it's about, no idea the emotional investment, the physical investment that you're putting into these weeks. And that's where I got so kind of offended. And if you pay attention to all of the talk, especially leading up to 99, because that's when it came out that year, they were going to make, the PGA of America was going to bank about $64 million, if I remember the number. I think it's massively more now.
Yeah.
But the questions came up, through the PGA at Medina that year about compensation.
Players weren't getting paid at all.
About charitable dollars. And my frame of reference was, I don't see why we can't, as players, direct monies to charities that we want, since we're doing this for free, the week for free. You got to remember, the only people at those matches, up until this year apparently, that aren't getting paid there are the players.
Right. Well, especially this year, we'll talk about.
Yeah, they've changed that apparently, but anyways, it became a very contested thing through the week. We had a closed door meeting with the team. Ben unfortunately went and talked about that meeting a little bit afterwards, but like I remember specifically, and there was one Chicago person, fairly well known now, Skip Bayless,
right,
who flat out lied about what I said, and Christine Brennan from USA Today. They completely manipulated and lied what I said. And I was just saying, I just think that we as players, my frame of reference, I had played 2 President's Cups in 96 and 98. And when I got there and this all blew up, I was like, I don't see why we can't direct some money to charity. I only knew that because the President's Cup gave us $100,000,
nice
to do that,
pretty
to
nice.
Charity. It went straight to charity. And it's like, then they're talking about getting paid and a tax break. And it's like, no, that's not how these things work. And so, but anyways, deer in the headlights a little bit, but it was well worth it. You look at how much has been directed to player charity since then, and it was worth the time.
And you look at now at Bethpage, Part of the headlines were made early when they said it's the base price to get in is $750.
I heard
Was it?
recently $750, but you can't get those. They're like $1,500 plus
Right,
now
right.
aftermarket. Yeah, it's
As
crazy.
you say, there's plenty of money flowing
Oh, it's
through
crazy.
the Ryder Cup. Let's talk about this year's event. Beth Page is going to be a star. The players, both teams are built with stars. Let's start with who you like. I know you're going to be rooting for the American team,
Sure.
but do you think they're the favorites, or you think they
I
could
don't
win?
think so, no. I mean, especially you look at the history of the last, call it 2 decades or so, and the European team has simply performed better. And it's kind of, in gambling and sports, you never bet against a streak, right? But all streaks come to an end.
Yeah.
But they seem to have the formula a little bit better. You reflect back to, 2014 they blew up the American Ryder Cup system kind of when
Right.
players were ripping into Tom Watson and all this. But it seems like it's, in a way, reverted back to a little bit of a good old boys club,
Yeah.
as far as
Well, the choices last time that were made, as far as who wasn't on the team, starring Keegan Bradley, and now Keegan's choice. And I think in victory or defeat, Keegan's choice is going to be a big part of the story.
There'll be a discussion, I'm sure.
Because I think what he did was very selfless, and I
Yep.
think he may have very well done the correct thing, and we'll find out about that. But I thought it was very brave and very noble of him to make the choice he made. Now, if they lose, they may say, "I would have rather had your clubs in the lineup
Yeah,
than
I
X,
know. It's a tough
Cameron
spot.
Young or someone, whoever got the spot that he passed up."
I
on."
mean, you would imagine that he is certainly one of the 12 best American players right now, and his role as captain, it's a tough spot to be in. The only way, and I don't believe in the slightest that his decision to not play, be a playing captain, I don't believe that decision has anything to do with based upon what might be said about it in victory or defeat. I think he simply did it for love of the Ryder Cup and thinking that that's the best thing and the best formula to give the American team a chance to win.
So the course and the crowds, I think, will be a star. The famed New York
Yep.
crowd, because home turf does matter in the Ryder Cup. It has in the past. It's not 100%, but it's been, you like to play at home.
It's meant to be a partisan event.
Yeah.
That's how it's set up. And so you want the crowds to be pulling for their side, whether it's here or over in Europe. I mean, my only fear for
Pulling for your side is one thing.
wonderful New York crowds. Look, I've loved playing up there,
Yeah.
and when they get behind you, man, it's awesome. But my only hope for that crowd, I hope they're incredibly partisan. I hope they're incredibly boisterous. But I hope there's not some type of inner thought of trying to live up to the expectation of a New York crowd.
To affect the
Right, because that's when it could kind of go over the top and get
Yeah.
out of hand, But if you're pulling for the American side and you're doing it in a fair way, then it's fair game.
The course is so hard. You played it in 2 U.S. Opens, and in 2009 you came close to winning. You finished tied for second. But the course, talk about the challenges it will present to the players this week.
I've seen a little bit of the coverage early in the week. Looked like it had a little bit of pace to a little bit dryness in it. Apparently there's a big front going through, I think what came through Denver, and it's just going to be wet and it's going to get longer and harder, make the rough thicker, although I heard they're topping it and cutting it a little bit. It's just, there's no let up in it really. You can look at the first couple of holes at roughly 390 each of them, but they're difficult fairways to hit.
Thin, yeah.
I mean, number one bends hard to the right, number two kind of bends up to the left. And so if you don't get it into play there, now you're in trouble. But I hope that the course is set up in such a manner that we do see a fair amount of birdies. To me, in those events, you want success to win holes, not failure.
So if you look at this year's American team, I would think that Bryson DeChambeau kind of becomes a wild card, and he always is because of his length and the way he plays and the way the crowd responds to him. But also, he hasn't really been on tour with the rest of the team. So you've been kind of talking about what that room is like. Suddenly, you have a team room, and it can change things. And I'd like for you to talk about how that may fit, or what kind of impact you see Bryson having.
I'd imagine he's going to have a good impact. I mean, he's a world-class player. He has shown, even after his move to live through the majors over the last few seasons, that he's competitive still. He's playing well. And, I can't – I mean, I had enough of a TV role for a long enough time that, like, I don't want to, put in what I think about it necessarily. I listen to what the players were saying, his teammates, and they love him. They love that he's there. They love he's a part of it. And so if there's not, you can tell from their voices that there's not going to be any kind of split divisiveness amongst the team. They're very proud and happy he's there. They wanted him there.
Yeah, he helps. I mean, when he's playing good, he will be a plus for the American team. On the European side, I think it used to be, let's go back to even 99 or before then, I think a lot of the European players, or maybe the bottom 4 or 6 players, would be people that American viewers and maybe even American golfers weren't that familiar with. I don't think that's the case as much anymore.
No, not at all. I think there's thought and discussion that the European team actually might be deeper than the American team this year,
which is new. That's something you
that's
normally
not
wouldn't
usually
say.
the case, you know. But they've all been playing well. I think that if anything, like if you look at the European side, you could probably come up with more names for them that you think could have been on the team as opposed you could for the American side. And that shows the depth of the European golf right now.
You talked about broadcasting. I always thought it was funny because when you were playing, I don't think you were necessarily warm and fuzzy with broadcast. And it reminded me very much of other golfers who've done that same thing. Curtis Strange famously didn't care for the media, becomes a terrific broadcaster. Nick Faldo, kind of the same story. Did you like broadcasting? Was it something that you thought you would do when you were starting to play less?
It's not something that entered my mind. It came about when they had the BMW at Cherry Hills in 14, and the Golf Central was on site. I don't believe it wasn't a live from, and they asked me to sit at the desk all week. And then the brass got in touch with me towards the end of the year and asked me if I'd like to do it, and so we talked about it at home, and Susie and I did it. And that everybody asked me about what kind of training did you have and what did you do. I'm like, they put on a headset and said, go up there and talk like you and be you. I got no training, no initiation, just go up there and do it. And it takes a little time to learn the rhythm of the shows, to speak and answer questions and talk about things in a 20, 30-second clip as the producer's talking in your ear.
Right.
I've
been there.
Oh, yeah, you know all about it. And so it's kind of, but it is enjoyable to be a part of it. It's a grind. It's especially those live from shows are very hard. They're very long and very late.
There's a lot, and you have to know a lot about a lot of different players.
You do. You have to pay attention.
Yeah.
And certainly there's some things through it that I never understood. Like we'd have production meetings at 1 in the afternoon with a show that's at 8, and I'm like, well, why are we having a production meeting? We don't know who's going to be leading this tournament. How do we know? How can we talk about what we might talk about? And things like that I didn't understand as a golfer. And I approached it as a golfer. And I always felt like, and even when I did the live broadcast of the golf that you watch on the TV, you got to remember athletes, golfers, anyway, they're human beings. And at times when, somebody might seem a little edgy, or they might have woke up on the wrong side of the bed. They might have got a call from their wife that she was in a car wreck in the morning. A kid got suspended from school. You don't know what's going on in that part of their life.
Everybody's going through something.
Everybody is. And so I always try to treat them that way and talk about players that way.
So because you will see the commentators, the players, a commentator can get under a player's skin. Ken Venturi, Johnny Miller, Brandel Chambly, you're going to say stuff. Did you ever find yourself aware of that line, or felt that even maybe you had crossed that line in talking about someone's game or how they were playing or the way they were conducting themselves?
I don't think so. I thought Johnny was really good at what he did. I thought Ken was great. I like Brandel, what he does. I really do. But like when I was doing telecasts, I tried to make a point not to ever be mean for mean's sake. And I think that's what rubbed people with Johnny and Kim Venturi at times, that it just seemed like it was a little bit mean. And like if I criticized something, I tried to explain why.
Right.
And so, the only beef I ever heard that came back to me was one of the PGAs we were covering. And I was talking about the 20. I forget who sponsors and what it's called now.
Right.
The, whatever 20, the club pros that are playing in the PGA Championship.
Right.
And I was talking about how cool it is for these guys to be playing, how nice it is to have a week off, not folding shirts, not doing it, and somebody took offense to me saying that, and I was like, I grew up the son of a club pro. I watched all this.
Yeah.
I know what they go through. I'm like, it's a lot better to be out here playing against their golfing idols and with them and playing practice rounds and not folding shirts and dealing with members. And the president of the PGA of America came in and they talked to the person like, oh, he's fine. Yeah, that's not whoever complained about that is way off.
Let's go back to the year 1999, before the Ryder Cup took place, because it was the year of David Duval. And let's start with what happened early in the season at the Bob Hope Desert Classic.
Duval made it to 18 with an opportunity, but he would need to do something no one who was shot 59 had ever done. Eagle the last.
I hit a good shot kind of right in the middle of the green, and lo and behold, if it didn't bounce up onto that top shelf up near the hole and you start feeding down close.
How good? That for 59.
There's some part of you that, you got a 7-footer now to shoot 59, and if you don't make it, you're kind of a goat.
There it is! 59, the best final round ever.
You were just the third player ever to shoot 59 at that point. That was one of those unattainable numbers.
Yeah.
Like the 4-minute mile used to be back in the day. I mean, it was an amazing round. You must have been feeling it from start to finish.
Mostly. It's funny, go back 2 weeks earlier, I was mad. I missed about, call it 22 to 24 footer on the last hole at Kapalua. I wanted to make that because if I make that, I win by 10 for the week. I won by 9. Then I took the week off, went out to the desert and played. And back then it was a 5-round event. And as well as everything had gone in Hawaii, I played pretty well those first 4 rounds, but I couldn't make a putt. And I hit a wedge to about 5 feet on the first hole, a little bit downhill, a little bit left to right. And my thought, you're bound to make one of these, So one of the funny stories about that, it was Jeff Maggart. I hit a 8-iron to about 2 feet on 15, par 3. And he looks up and he goes, God damn, I didn't know we were playing par 2s today, because I've gone 2, 2, 2, 2 on all the par 3s up to then, that kind of thing. So it was a great day. And you heard Mike Tirico, famous in sports broadcasting, right?
Yeah.
And we still joke about it when I see him, but I went up in the booth with him and Curtis. And after I was sitting up there for a few minutes, because Steve Pate was probably a good hour behind me, hour and a half, something like that. And he asked, will you go to the range and will you do, it's like, yeah, there's a few things I need to work on, Mike. And he's like, oh man, I walked right into that.
That year, though, you won the 2 tournaments leading up to the Masters as well. You hit Augusta flying.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel like Augusta was going to be added to your resume? I know you're from
Absolutely.
down there, and you probably thought you were going to win it one of these years.
Absolutely. I sit here, at 53 now, and the stretch from 98 through 01, I didn't win any of them, finished second twice, I think third, but I could have won all 4. Could have won 4 straight, and actually one of the things I've done dealing with ESPN, sitting with Scott Van Pelt and that team through some of the PGAs I've done, talking about it, and as it comes up, and like, how long does it take to get over things? I'm like, you don't ever get over those.
Yeah, you haven't. Was it for one thing or one hole? Was there a thing that always nipped you at Augusta?
Not necessarily. I never. I struggled at times with the 16th hole, the back left pin on the par 3, because I didn't turn the ball. And then I never played 13 at Augusta very well.
Which you're supposed to make 4s there.
I think, a good year would be make 2 birdies out of 4, and you really need to make 3.5 on that hole out of 4 days. And if anything, it was those 2, but, not really. It's just, it was a great finish by Marco Mira one year. It was a great play by VJ, great play by Tiger, and then Jose one year, it was like Jose Maria. And it's just, that's the thing in sport, you play well and sometimes you get beat.
Yeah. Well, the one major you did claim was just a couple years down the road from that, 2001. And let's take a look at how the British Open wrapped up in 2001 for David Duval.
A 67 on the final day, 5 birdies, 1 bogey and 12 pars comprised the golden round that saw Duval's longest-held ambition fulfilled. He won by 3 at 10 under par. He was the new Open champion, and naturally, it meant an awful lot.
Anything, I was just lucky to experience the crowd on 18 and to experience the final day of the Open Championship, and I enjoyed it. It's a wonderful experience.
That claret jug is, that's kind of the piece of hardware you want if you play golf. You want a green jacket, you want a claret jug, but that still has to be right at the top of your list.
Absolutely. That one, Ryder Cup of 99, my first President's Cup in 96, Arnold was the captain. His birthday was that week. First win on tour.
And that was the day,
97.
though, that your dad won as well, right? You were
No,
talking about
that was
something about-
earlier. That was in 99 when I won the Players
Okay.
to go to number 1. My dad won on the Champions Tour a couple hours before my round finished. And I had one of the handhelds walking, one of the rover cameras who was following my group, and walking into 14 fairway. This is tight. It's tough. And that year I shot 3 under. Scott Gump shot 1 under. Only 2 players finished under par.
This is Sawgrass.
Yeah, TPC Sawgrass. And walking into 14 fairway, he's like, "Hey, your dad just won. Now it's up to you." I'm like, "Oh, great,"
I didn't have enough pressure.
But
This
it's
is
funny.
good.
I played there quickly. I shot 69-69. First 2 days was a shot behind Joe Ozaki after 2 days. I shot 74-73 on the weekend and won by 2. That's how hard it was.
Yeah.
It was just brutal.
Some years the weather, that was still when it was in February.
That was March, yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
March. So it was the weather was always pretty dodgy down there. Whenever we see you in those days, which you referred to 97 to 01, where you were at the very top of the game, we didn't really see you. Those sunglasses was that what? Tell us about that, because some of it seemed like it was intentional, like
Right.
like a poker player,
Yeah.
and some of it I don't know if you were getting paid by Oakley or Nike or whoever had your
At
sunglasses.
that point, I was an endorser of Oakley for sure.
Yeah.
No, it was entirely a decision of utility, and I wore hard contacts back in the early '90s, and we always played our ACC championship in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, in April, and so we were at the tournament at the ACC championships playing practice rounds, and it's windy a little bit, and there's just pollen, everything going everywhere, and it's just getting in my eyes. And so my golf coach, Puggy Blackman, went to a sunglasses hut and found those and bought a pair, and I put them on, and it just became kind of a part of my equipment.
It became part of your look too, because I think people now look at it and go, "Well, what's the big deal?" Well, there weren't many players wearing sunglasses back then.
No, I got vilified for that for sure. And now I'll bet you, I don't know, at least half of the field wear sunglasses. Who play professional golf, and so it's just the times. It's just those things.
Things change.
Mm-hmm.
So let's also reflect on your look, because that Sunday we were talking about at Brookline, that shirt, and it's so funny because there it is. I think of Ben Crenshaw, seeing him since, because they have one of those shirts down at Colorado Golf Club, which he helped design with Bill Core, but. He loved that shirt, and I'm sure when you guys saw it, that probably wasn't like everyone, "Oh, this is great."
Well, as a team, we were all like, "What is this?" And we didn't really even recognize what it was, and it's just pictures of all the former Ryder Cup teams, team pictures, and so, a little distracting, I guess, but it's become pretty famous.
Yeah, Justin Leonard and the rest of the team certainly made it famous. Because when I look at the clothes now, sunglasses, all these parts of being a pro golfer, that's become pretty important stuff. You were one of those early Nike guys when Nike said, "We're going to get into golf," and they attached themselves to you, you to them. It was a good deal.
I had a wonderful long-term run with them, and they're an amazing company to be a part of, be associated with. They're all about the athlete and producing product that is for the elite athlete that then they sell to the public, as opposed to fitting an athlete into product that they want to mass produce and sell. And it's very similar to my relationship with Callaway. They make the best product there is, and they make it for the player. And then that's a part of what they sell to the public. And I think that's a pretty cool way to go about things.
So let's go. You're number one in the world for a stretch. You're a major champion. You've won the Players Championship, the Tour Championship. You've shot 59, Ryder Cup champion. I mean, all this stuff is. When it starts to get rocky, when golf starts to turn on you, what happens there? Is that just the nature of the game, or did you physically break down a little bit, or what changed?
Well, golf is hard.
That's how you know that.
It's hard, and there's ups and there's downs for sure. But no, it all started actually in 2000 at the Scottish Open, and playing there the week before the Open at St. Andrews, and back went out. Just entirely went out and was all but crippled. I was playing a practice round with Tom Watson on Wednesday before the Open, and he saw me I had to squat down to get a golf ball out of the hole, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "My back is just gone." And he's like, "What are you doing out here?" Yeah. I'd rest up and try to. And I was like, "I've never played the golf course with this wind. It was a different wind than I'd ever seen on that golf course." And so, anyways, I actually had a decent run there, but then I came back from there. Took a couple weeks off, actually came out here to the International, withdrew from the Pro-Am on Wednesday on the 14th hole, withdrew from the golf tournament on the 6th hole, and then I took off because it was done. I went up and spent a couple weeks with a trainer from the tour in Montana to try to get things figured out, and then came back and had some success, but through it, the low back I think it had compromised some other things, and then you start making adjustments in your golf swing, your address position, your setup, and it's just a little bit of a ripple effect.
Yeah.
And so, I've talked about through the years, the pundits, all the media people, why would he try to change his swing? I never once tried to change my golf swing in my career. I tried to restore it.
Yeah.
I tried to put it back together, but never tried to change it. I mean, I was smart enough. Once I turned pro, even through when I wasn't having injury issues, my golf swing and golf game's pretty good, and I don't need to change things. And so I just tried to fix it after all the injuries.
So inside your mental and emotional state, that's not easy to have been as good as anyone.
It's awful.
It's
awful.
You know what you want to do, and you can't.
That's some advice I've given to younger players over the years, because they know I've seen the top and I've seen the bottom. And I tell people, players, I'm like, look, if there's something I learned through this whole thing, through my career, is that you need to protect your confidence at all costs, And if you have an injury, walk away. If it's affecting things, walk away, get healed. And when you think you're ready, take 2 or 3 more months off to make sure you're healed. But I said, because once you start chipping away and that starts eroding, it's hard to get it back. And through the years, speaking to so many different psychologists, sports psychiatrists, all these things, it has to do, a lot of it has to do, from what I understand, and I'm not going to explain it the best, but it has to do with short-term memory.
Really?
Because short-term memory is a very difficult thing to replace in your brain. And so, if you think about, the last time you played, I mean, that's kind of some of the maybe crappy shots you hit. That's what you remember.
Yeah.
You don't remember the decade of excellence. You remember last time you were out and the time before out, and when you failed in trying to do what you do. And so replacing those short-term memories with success is a difficult thing.
So obviously that's a darker period for your relationship with golf. It seems to me, watching from a bit of a distance, that playing in the father-son tournament and now the Champions Tour, it seems like a much lighter, happier David Duval has returned to the game, and the game has returned to him too.
It's getting there as far as the golf goes. It's been a slower process than I thought it would be. But no, I'm having fun. I'm enjoying it. I'm as frustrated as anybody. Right now, I'm not happy at all with my scores. I mean, we all walk off the golf course, and it could have been a shot better, 2 shots better. I feel like I'm walking off every day, and I'm like, it should have been 4 shots better. So I'm not quite getting out of it what I feel like I should. I'm enjoying hitting balls. I'm enjoying the success of properly controlling golf balls. enjoying being out there and competing. And the father-son is it's the hardest invite in golf.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah, but I love when I
know,
saw you out
and-
there. I thought that's such a good sign because your game. We hadn't seen your
Yeah.
game much on television until you
Yeah.
went back out there in Florida. I call it the Charlie Woods Invitation.
Yeah, pretty much, right?
No, but it is fun to see all those fathers
fun.
and sons, or even sons and fathers,
Yeah.
out there playing. It looks like a great event.
It's the best week of golf there is. Most sought after invite. You have to have won a major championship, or I think the Players as well. We'll be down there again. We got the invite not too long ago.
Fantastic.
So it's a big family event, family affair. Brady and I will be playing and hopefully succeeding this year with a victory.
You still have that southern sound to your voice.
It comes out every now and again.
but-
Not as bad.
But you're a Colorado guy now. Talk about
over 20 years.
Yeah, talk about how you ended up here, because it's not professional golfers all live in Arizona and Florida and
Right.
Texas, or California, but not many live here in Colorado.
No, there's a few, but I've always enjoyed the West. I always liked being out in the West in the mountains, and just by God's purpose, I think I crossed paths with this beautiful lady who was kind as could be, and we started talking and eventually dated. And Susie had no idea who I was, didn't know anything about golf. When we were talking the first time we met, I'm like, I'm here working at the International, and didn't know if I was selling shirts or corporate or what, and so, and just it's been a blessed life, with her, and we've been married over 21 years now, and we just have a good time, and we're looking forward to like this stage where recently downsized and more freedom to travel and move and go to events and do different things, and we're enjoying it.
It's a great story. The advice you give the most, or the advice you're asked for the most, technical golf advice. Like, what would you say that you look at most? You play in pro-ams or you play with your buddies or whatever, that most often you see, it's your grip, your stance, your brain. What do you tell people?
I think this simplest, it's not even the simplest, but I think most players, you got to remember in golf, okay, there are historical great players who didn't hit golf balls particularly well, okay? You look at, one that comes to mind is like Phil Mickelson. He hit it everywhere, right? One of the greatest players who's ever lived.
Right.
But then there's great hitters as well, and not all great hitters have been great golfers.
Right.
You hear on the TV some, at least I don't know if I've heard him this year, but Graham Dillett's been on there. Amazing hitter of the golf ball, was never a great player though.
Okay.
Most of it has to do, in my opinion, and people are going to get upset with me, is they're not properly taught how to release a golf club.
To release the club.
Right.
So lag.
The lag is. They talk about that, and it's like, that is, in my opinion, it's such the wrong thing to try to tell people. You go back to Jack Nicklaus' statements. He wish he had 3 right hands. He can't release it soon enough. You really got to start releasing the golf club from the top of your swing.
Okay.
And the arm has to work this way, not this way.
Okay.
Okay, because if this is, basically that's square over the face of your club, right?
Right.
Well, if you're going like this through your golf swing, you're rotating the face.
The face is turning, yeah.
And so you have to time it. If you're releasing this way, the face is stable.
Okay.
And that's what I'm
Tell
a
'em-
proponent of.
So release the club more freely or more aggressive? I'm trying to make sure
As soon as you can from the top of your swing.
just let it
Because
go.
it happens halfway down. It doesn't happen. It feels like it's here, and people call it casting.
Yeah.
But that's just the furthest thing from the truth.
Okay.
It happens maybe halfway down in your swing. And my son Brady, when he was upset one day, he was probably 10 years old, and he was like, I can't. He called me from the golf course, like, I can't hit it. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll come out and have a look. And so the little drill I gave him, I said, grab 10 golf balls and put them in a pile. Grab 10 more and put each one on a tee. Now hit me a flop shot, and now make the same swing with a driver.
Oh, wow.
Well, if you think about it, you're almost vertical with a flop shot, and you
Yeah.
and you move like this, right?
Yeah, releasing
And it goes straight
for
up.
sure. Yeah.
Now you're just it's further away from you. But you still want to move this way, and all of a sudden there you go, back up in the air and straight.
And is there any secret to becoming a great putter? I'm just asking for
Practice.
a friend.
Practice. I would, what, if there's one, and it's not a secret, but especially I've learned a bit about putting over the last few years because things
Right.
have changed. And I think one of the fallacies you get told is try to accelerate through the ball, right?
Yeah.
Impossible.
Okay.
Physics says it's impossible. A moving object is hitting a stationary object. It slows down.
It's going to slow down.
Slows down, period. And basically as you see players playing now through all the stuff they've done and they figured out through the science of it, the club swings and then it kind of goes in and it can stop now. It's
Okay.
done. But you'll see players whose backstrokes are twice as long as their forward strokes, that kind of thing. And the other thing I would say is just practice 5-footers.
Yeah.
If you make 5-footers, you're not worried about the 20-footer.
You're going to do pretty good.
Yeah,
You're gonna do
I think
pretty
that's
good.
the biggest thing.
You're going to be glued to the TV all weekend?
I will probably set an alarm for 4:45 on Friday because I believe it's 5 a.m. here. It comes on,
And you'll be up.
and I'll get up and turn it on and have it on. I'll have to go work and practice a little bit at some point, but got to see the start of it and hopefully catch the opening shots, tee shots, because it's pretty. You still get chills. Haven't been a part of it, still get chills with it.
Well, and we didn't even get a chance to talk about the year you were the vice captain in Paris,
That's right.
working with
You
Jim
came to the
Furyk.
house
Yeah,
years
I
ago
did.
about that.
Nice interview with you there about that. But it's going to be a great Ryder Cup week. It's
Yeah.
really nice to see you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much for taking the
too.
time. David Duval, of course, the great golf champion, joining us here on the Other Tom Green Show. Again, thanks to David Duval for joining us here on the eve of the Ryder Cup. Of course, it's always fun to watch the Ryder Cup, and it is fun to see what happens between fans from overseas and fans from the United States. Of course, now we live in more polarizing times, so hopefully, as David pointed out, hopefully the fans are boisterous, the viewers are boisterous, but also just let things happen. Let the players play and let the game settle itself out. Should be a great weekend of golf at the Ryder Cup. We're going to talk a little bit about baseball next week with a real interesting trendsetter, gal from right here in Colorado. Jenny Kavnar is going to join us on the Other Tom Green Show. Thanks for joining us.